We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
K-Day 5K and celebrating the life and legacy of an amazing advocate for equality today.
Today we pause to remember, celebrate, and commemorate the life of a Baptist preacher from Atlanta, Georgia. A visionary who pioneered America's civil rights movement and energized the international human rights movement. A man who charged the gates of legalized segregation and pushed this nation towards racial reconciliation. Today we recount the impact of a man whose life was cut short when he was struck by an assassin's bullet on the Lorraine Hotel balcony in Memphis, Tennessee on April 4th, 1968. I'm talking about none other than Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And as we gather on the horizon of a new year, it's okay to acknowledge that we as a nation have made significant progress. But it's also equally important for us to acknowledge that we have so much further to go. Service before self cannot be a core value just in our talk. It must be a core value in the way that we walk. Continuing the work of Dr. King is our collective responsibility, as well as a matter of personal accountability. And so I will be the first to say that it starts with me. Can I hear you say that it starts with me?
It starts with me.
Oh, y'all gotta do better than that. It starts with me.
It starts with me.
That's how we move forward. That's how we show our gratitude for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who made the ultimate sacrifice of giving his life so that generations after could have a better life. And when we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr., we have to stop looking at it as an event and start thinking about it in terms of engagement. Engagement is about ensuring that the armed forces remains one of the most progressive institutions in America when it comes to eradicating racially motivated policies and practices. For the military members in the room, I want you to think about your uniform for a second. And I want you to look at the right side of your chest. And there you will find your name. That implies that we are all unique. It's okay to be an individual, but this work will not get accomplished if we treat each other like we're islands. It's okay to be unique. And as we all look the same and we're dressed the same, and on the left side of our uniform says United States Air Force, it's okay for us to be uniformed. It's okay for us to march to the beat of the same drum, to be moving in the same direction. But it's not okay just to be unique. And it's not okay just to be uniform. We must be unified. And that's what this moment is about. That's what the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. embodies. That's what we are called to do. That's what we are called to be. Because in order to make a difference, we must first be the difference. And so I challenge you as you leave this room, please, by all means, strive to work together, love one another, and let's celebrate our differences. And thank you guys so much for having me. Carmen, please.
It's interesting to note that if we were celebrating this day with the given name of Martin Luther King Jr., it would be called Michael King Jr. Day. That'd be the name of the day. Because he was actually born to Michael Sr., Michael King Sr., and he was born Michael King Jr. So there's got to be something in that name. So Martin Luther, obviously a namesake of Martin Luther King Sr. and Jr. Martin Luther is a guy who's raised in the Catholic Church there in Germany, okay? And he's raised in there, and he starts taking note of this one particular thing that really gets under his skin, and he knows it's wrong, and he wants to do something right about what's wrong. It's called moral courage. When you see something that's wrong, you have to know what the moral is, what the good moral is, and the courage is to be brave enough to do something about it. They're saying out of Rome, where he had visited, right, if you'll just pay us more money, your hell won't be as hot. And so he goes, that's wrong. I want to do something right about that. So he gets his 95 Theses, and he goes and he nails them to the doors of the Wittenberg Church in Germany. And it's a protest saying, you're wrong. And at one point, they asked him to demand that he recant all of the statements that he made. And he's famous. Martin Luther is famous. This was in the 16th century, back in the early 1500s. He says, "Here I stand, I can do no other." He took a bold stance. If you didn't know this, he was martyred. He was killed because of his beliefs and his stance. So, now we fast forward back into 1934, and you have Michael Sr., right? Michael King Sr. sees that, hears that, knows the story about it, and is so inspired that whenever he goes back to Atlanta, Georgia, he not only changes his own name to Martin Luther King Sr., he changes his son's name to Martin Luther King Jr. when he's 5 years old. We've all got this, it's a name that we bear, U.S. Air Force. And we've got some core values that are incredibly great. And they take moral courage to utilize, right? Integrity first. Be the same person when no one's looking that you are when everyone's looking. I should be the same person on this stage that I am whenever I'm at home with my family. That's integrity, right? Service before self, that is not a cliche. We need to be thinking about our service, not in spite of ourselves, but our service should be our first thought as to what do we need to do to serve, and at times that takes sacrifice. And that's what I think of when I think of Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, the sacrifices he made, he put his ever-loving life on the line for something that he believed in. And I think we do that same thing in the uniform. We're called to do it. And at some point, if we have to give our own lives, that's what we're going to do. And then excellence in all we do, we need to do it all with total excellence. And that was what he was doing that with excellence. He inspired a whole entire generation. And look at us today. Here we are after his passing in 1968. It's 2024 for crying out loud. And we're still talking about the guy and what he did. And we're trying to take what was so good in his moral courage and carry that on and carry it forward. Make sure that we recognize that we have to do something. We can't sit idly by. If we see something that's not right, we can't walk past the problem, otherwise we're owning the problem. Make sure you're thinking about you represent your own name well, make a good name for yourself with moral courage, and then represent the U.S. Air Force well.